Pressure has a way of showing up on the days you feel least ready for it. One morning, everything feels normal. And by the afternoon, your marriage hits a tense moment. A crisis pops up at work, or your child needs wisdom you don't feel equipped to give. And here's what I've learned the hard way. Pressure doesn't wait for you to feel strong, prayed up, motivated, or rested. It doesn't wait for a convenient moment. It doesn't wait until you've gotten your act together. It just arrives. Most men think the best version of themselves will somehow show up when the pressure shows up. But the truth is this: when life squeezes you, you don't become a stronger version of yourself. You reveal whatever you've been leaning on. That's why today's episode isn't about becoming tougher. It's about becoming more dependent on the God who promises to steady you long before the storm arrives. Because if you wait until the pressure hits to rely on God, it's already too late. Strength isn't built in crisis. Strength is built in the daily training that keeps your heart anchored to Him before the crisis ever comes. Scripture doesn't tell us to try harder or be stronger. Over and over, God calls us to prepare our hearts by depending on Him. Isaiah 26:3 says, you keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts you. Peace under pressure, doesn't come from self-discipline or emotional toughness. It comes from a mind anchored to God, a heart trained to trust Him before the weight ever arrives. Proverbs 22:3 warns us, the prudent sees danger and hides himself, but the simple go on and suffer for it. Wise men don't wait for danger. They prepare by staying close to the Lord now. And Paul tells us in 1 Timothy 4:7-8, to train yourself for godliness, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come. Training for godliness, isn't about perfect behavior. It's intentional dependence day after day, so that when pressure squeezes you, the first thing that comes out is trust, not panic, because pressure will come. And at some point, you will face a season that tests you beyond what you feel capable of. Every man does. Your marriage will hit moments, where love requires more patience than you naturally have. Your career will demand wisdom you don't possess on your own. Your kids will face battles that expose your limitations. Your own heart will wrestle with doubts, dryness, or just temptation. And in those moments, your natural strength won't hold. Only the strength God has been forming in you day by day will carry you. That's why preparedness or preparation, matters. Not only to become superhuman, but to become a man who's already tethered to God before the pressure intensifies. Because pressure doesn't just expose your habits. Pressure exposes your foundation. So let's walk through a few practical ways to build the strength you'll need later. Number one, build stress capability by inviting God into small daily loads. Think of emotional and spiritual strength like physical training. You don't start with, the heaviest weight. You build capacity through small intentional reps. But here's the difference for a Christian man. Every rep is an opportunity to rely on God instead of yourself. So each day, pick one small moment and invite Him into it. When irritation rises, ask, Lord, help me respond with patience instead of pride. When you feel the urge to avoid something difficult, pray this, God, give me courage for this one step. When emotions run high, whisper, Spirit, steady my heart before I speak. These small reps, form a habit, Turning to God first. That is the habit you'll desperately need when the pressure grows. Number two, a weekly personal debrief that brings your heart back to God. Most men don't fall apart because of one big crisis. They fall apart because they stopped paying attention to what God was trying to reveal long before the crisis came. Once a week, take 10 to 15 minutes and ask God to show you the truth about your week. For example, you might ask, Lord, where did I feel stretched this week? What weakness or pattern are you gently trying to expose? What am I avoiding that you're inviting me to face? Where did I drift from you? And what helped me stay close? How can I love my wife and kids better this coming week? Number three, create non-negotiable recovery rhythms that restore your soul. Pressure crushes men who are already depleted. That's why recovery isn't optional. It's obedience, Consider simple weekly rhythms that reconnect you with God, such as, a weekly Sabbath, reset, No hustle, no striving, no pressure. Maybe a 20-minute walk without your phone. Asking God to realign your heart, right? 10 quiet minutes on the porch each evening, right? Giving just the Lord the weight of the day. Recovery, isn't self-care. Recovery is preparing your heart to lead well. Number 4, practice obedience in small decisions before the big ones arrive. Courage isn't suddenly born in a crisis. It's slowly built in the small, just inconvenient acts of obedience no one sees. Here are a few ways you can do this. Tell the truth even when it complicates things. Admit fault immediately, right? Don't defend. Don't spin it. Say no, when your schedule is full instead of overcommitting. Each small act of obedience strengthens your reflex to turn to God instead of self-preservation. Number 5, surround yourself with men who push you toward God, not comfort. You cannot train for pressure alone. Isolation makes you weaker. Community makes you sharper. Every man needs 3 kinds of relationships. A man ahead of you, right, to offer wisdom, you don't have yet. A man beside you who knows, your real life and speaks truth with grace. A man behind you, someone, watching your example, reminding you that your choices matter. These aren't casual friendships. They're guardrails. They're training partners. They're men who refuse to let you drift and really refuse to let you drift from God when life gets demanding. Pressure is coming, but you don't have to meet it on your own strength. God is ready to form courage and steadiness in you long before the storm shows up. So here's your challenge for the week. Pick one place where you've been relying on yourself and invite God into it. Just one small act of surrender, one moment of trust, because God doesn't ask you to be impressive. He asks you to be faithful. And faithful men, strengthened by God, become resilient men. If this episode pushed you in a good way, make sure you subscribe so you never miss a conversation. And if you know a man who's walking through pressure or preparing for a season, he can already feel coming, share this with him and remind him he doesn't have to face that pressure unprepared or alone. Would you join the Courageous Men community? And I want to keep encouraging you every day to keep becoming the man God is shaping you to be. Let's take action. Let's be courageous.